Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of the Plakata Nation podcast on our Esquina network. Here today with me is the man, Jesus. And we're missing our partner, Carlos Peña, but he will be back in the next episode. Promise you that. Jesus, this was a huge week for MLB, particularly three players who got into the MLB Hall of Fame. That is one, Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, and, of course, Mr. Billy Wagner. Jesus, I know it's been a long time coming, especially for Billy Wagner. I want to hear your thoughts, man.
It's been such a wonderful week, seeing Billy Wagner, seeing his emotion, seeing how much the Hall of Fame meant to him was just so nice. It was such a relief. I voted for him all 10 times he's been on the ballot. I think he's been one of the greatest closers of all time. If you had me to pick closers in a draft, Mariano Rivera would be the only one I'd pick ahead of him. And even then, I probably would still pick Billy. That's how much I like the guy. Great family man. He stands for everything that is right in baseball. And to see him just sob after he got the news was so cool. And I'm excited for CC. And then, of course, Ichiro Suzuki, man, one away from unanimity. I think, we'll talk a little bit about this later, but like the numbers being a unanimous selection versus not being a unanimous selection, the browbeating by the Baseball Writers Association of America and our critics, people whining that let's focus on the guys who got in instead of the one guy who didn't vote for him. I think the BBWA does a great job, but I'm excited for this show, bro.
Excited. I am. And I was watching all the interviews. The interview you did with Billy was fantastic. For those, please go seek it out. It is on the ourscreen.com website. It's on the YouTube. Please seek it out. Jesus Ortiz did a fantastic job interviewing Billy. Billy was so open. You can tell that they have a really good friendship, and it was just wonderful to hear Billy's side of how he felt and the road to get to where he's at. And then the same thing, we saw a bunch of interviews with Ichiro, and there was an awesome interview with Ichiro on MLB Network where Griffey Jr. popped up and congratulating him. Same thing with CC. You see him there when he got the call. He was with his family. It was such a beautiful day. And, these are three very important guys for the game of baseball. They were vital in their positions that they played. They were, like Jesus says, these were top guys. These weren't just, guys that compiled stats or anything. No, these were guys that were pivotal to their teams, pivotal to the game, and to see them make it and to see them come through and be honored the way they're honored and for them to embrace it. I love it. I think it's one of these things where it shows you that the game of baseball, it's a game, but it's more than that. And to be in the hall with legends and now to be a legend yourself, I could only imagine how that must feel. I'm so happy and I'm so proud of them, of all these guys that got in. But I want to focus on two individuals, particularly one that almost made it in, and that is one Carlos Beltran. 70% of the vote. Jesus, is he a shoo-in for next year?
I hesitate to say that he's a shoo-in for next year just because the private ballots were so low. Like, I think he's, as far as the tracking area with Ryan Thibodeau, he's the first guy who was at the level where he was tracking public-wise to get only 70%. So I wonder how many people will continue to punish Carlos Beltran unfairly, I would say, for the cheating scandal, because he's the one who hasn't really been forgiven. AJ Hinch back in baseball, and Carlos is back in baseball, right? Mm-hmm. But I think Carlos would have been a great manager. Alex Cora did his 1-year suspension. AJ Hinch did his 1-year suspension. Jeff Luno did his suspension. He hasn't come back to baseball. He's running soccer clubs and in a different sport, but he's welcome to come back if somebody will hire him. Yet, Carlos Beltran continues to be punished, and it breaks my heart for the guy. But like I've told Billy Wagner many times, your plaque doesn't say when you got in. It just says Hall of Famer. So if he gets it on the fourth year on the ballot next year, good for him. Andrew Jones, I think, picks up the support that he needs next year. He was at 66.2%. And if you think about it, if you look at that ballot, it might be the thinnest in terms of Hall of Fame players in at least 15 years.
You mean for next year, correct?
Yeah, for next year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, when Billy Wagner came on the ballot, there were 12 eventual Hall of Famers, Wagner included. So it was tricky. The ballot was crowded with Clemens and Bonds and Sosa and some of these guys associated with PEDs. And next year you have A-Rod. He's, if not for the suspensions, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Easily.
Flirting with 100%. But he's not going to get the support. The people who don't vote for him are rigid, being one of them. I just won't vote for guys who were suspended. But I think Andy Pettitte will see a resurgence, another surge, I should say. He made great progress this year. And I think next year's the year that we look at Bobby Abreu and people start saying, okay, this guy stats. In many ways, I tell people if you were to pick and you said, hey, here's Ichiro Suzuki, here's Bobby Abreu, which guy would you want? I would pick Bobby Abreu. As crazy as that sounds, I would pick Bobby Abreu just because, on base percentage, home runs, and RBIs and things, the overall package.
Yeah. It's funny because we spoke about it a few weeks ago. There was a stat about Bobby Abreu comparing him to Bryce Harper. I think I want to say it was like a 9-year stat or something. And the numbers are really similar. And I mean, we talk about Bryce Harper. When Bryce Harper retires, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer easily. He's another guy that might get in, into that like 90, like high 90 percentile, maybe 100. And you look at Bobby Abreu's stats, and him and Bryce Harper are pretty much almost on par. And in some ways, maybe even better. It slides more with Bobby Abreu. So it's exciting to see that next year with a thinner ballot, we might see some of these guys who people are going to look back and they're going to look at the back of the baseball card and be like, oh, wow, I didn't know this guy, had this many home runs, this many hits, or this guy had this low of an ERA or this high of a strikeout rate. I think it's going to be interesting. I do hope that Carlos Beltran gets in. He's a very deserving, as you said, he's been punished enough. He is back in baseball. He is working with the Mets. Maybe that helps too. Him being back in baseball, him, being in this organization who's now come to the forefront of being one of the big teams. And if they have success, and a lot of it is maybe due in part to Carlos's influence, maybe that helps as well. I do hope he gets in. I hope Andrew Jones gets in. That would be awesome. I think he would be the first. He's from Curacao. I think he'd be the first native Curacao to get in. That would be unbelievable. And Andrew Jones was one of these guys who I remember. I mean, I'm a Yankee fan, 96, and this 18-year-old kid comes and hits 2 home runs in game 1. This guy was just like, you're just like, what is this? What the heck is this? And his athletic ability, Bobby Cox, he would drive Bobby Cox crazy with the way he would catch the ball. It was hilarious. But at the same time, he was a competitor. He was just a good hitter. I hope he gets in. That would be fun to see him in the Hall. And obviously for the people of Curacao, people of the Caribbean, that would be awesome to see. And of course, Bobby Abreu, man, that guy, doesn't get talked about enough. He should get talked about more, and hopefully next year conversation starts picking up and we start giving that guy his flowers, man. That would be great. Jesus, I want to transition real quick now to current baseball free agency, and you just dropped some knowledge on me that I was not aware of at all. Jesus, let the people know what you just told me, man.
Well, Bob Nightingale had a report that the Astros were still involved, hadn't given up hope on hadn't closed the door on Alex Bregman. The budget wasn't there. Alex Bregman had a chance to be an Astro. He decided to just turn down their last offer. But as we've seen, the offers haven't materialized quite as well as Alex Bregman perhaps expected or perhaps even deserved, right? The market has kind of like it went haywire with Juan Soto, Max Fried, and then all of a sudden it just like has stalled. And it stalled for guys like Pete Alonso, stalled for guys like Alex Bregman. Well, Jose Altuve, the greatest Astro of all time, a guy whose number 27 will be retired one day here in Houston, has reportedly gone to the Astros and said, "Hey, I will move to left field so you guys could re-sign Alex Bregman."
Wow.
That would be huge. And I tell you what, like Alex Bregman at short or second would be great. Wow. This is, remember, he was a shortstop at LSU. Mm-hmm. And the only reason he didn't play shortstop with the Astros was because there was a guy named Carlos Correa who literally made his debut the day, if I remember correctly, or the day after Carlos Correa made his debut. So this is third baseman who has the range of a shortstop, has the range of a second baseman. And, people are saying, oh, Jose Altuve in left field, that they struggle to see that. Well, I'll remind you that Hall of Famer Craig Biggio in 2003 moved to center field and then eventually moved to left, 2003, 2004 to accommodate Jeff Kent when Jeff Kent signed with the Astros. So this is not new territory. And as you noted, like it's not new territory in Major League Baseball. The best of the best have done it. There's a guy Mookie Betts in LA. Some people may have heard of him. He's moved back and forth between the infield and the outfield. Mm-hmm. But it says a lot about Jose Altuve, the leader. He is the leader of that clubhouse. He wants to win. And truly, if Bregman wants to stay in Houston, this might be his opportunity. And the window for the Astros hasn't closed. The best thing that has happened for the Astros this winter is the fact that the American League didn't get much better. Think about it. The Yankees lost Juan Soto. Mm-hmm. The Dodgers have pretty much just taken everybody. I will take all your great players. And then the Arizona Diamondbacks got Burns. Yep. So the American League actually got worse this year. Mm-hmm. And I think the Astros, if you consider first and third base combination, upgraded. Because you had a great third baseman who had a decent year, but you had a hole at first base. Well, now with that money they saved by not giving it to Bregman at first, they signed a really good first baseman, and they acquired an all-star third baseman. But if you somehow could get Bregman back, I think the team is good. And if nothing else, this idea reminds the world of the type of player Jose Altuve is.
I agree. That is what you call just being. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar if they've given him the title of captain, but that's captain material to me, man. Like to to reach out to the organization and say, listen, we need this guy. This guy is the engine to our locomotive, and we need him on our team. And the fact that he said, let's do this, I'm willing to move to left field. Then Altuve is athletic enough to do it. Again, you mentioned the legendary Craig Biggio. You mentioned future first ballot Hall of Famer Mookie Betts doing it. It's not unprecedented. It's been done before. I think Altuve could pull it off. I can't see why not. Listen, if you could play second base, and that's a tough position to play, you could play the outfield. You could play left field. He can make that happen. I can't see why not. I think now it's all on Bregman. Does Bregman come back on a shorter term deal? Is this something that is going to happen? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. How bad does Bregman want to come back to Houston and do these things? Is Houston willing to maybe come to some sort of middle ground with Bregman on some sort of short term deal with a few opt outs and stuff? It's definitely possible. I think a lot of people in Houston are waiting to see if this happens. If it does, that'd be great. And I agree with you. The American League is super wide open. There is no number one team. I think it's just it's all up for grabs. Another team in the American League that I want to throw to, which connects to one of the other players who you mentioned that is a free agent, that is the Blue Jays. Blue Jays made some noise, signed Anthony Santander to I believe it was like a 7-year deal, and supposedly, Jesus, they're in the rumor of maybe signing a Pete Alonso. But then I'm also hearing that the Mets are still maybe in negotiations with Pete Alonso. Jesus, what do you think Pete Alonso should do, man? What's your thoughts on this?
I think if Pete Alonso had the deals that he wanted with the Mets, he'd already be with the Mets. I think he's holding out, and he'll go with the Blue Jays. This same thing with Alex Bregman, right? If Alex Bregman wanted to be an Astro, he'd already be an Astro. But he wants to get, by all appearances, the best deal. And God bless him. Nope, you can't blame him for that. But the Astros have done everything in their power within reason. Fair market deal. There's not a better deal out there for Alex Bregman, because if there were, he would have likely have taken it already. Right. So I think the same thing with Pete Alonso, right? If he had a better deal with the Mets, he would have already taken it. So he needs to just, tip his cap to the Mets and go to Toronto and take the money that is there before they move on. I mean, and the poor Blue Jays, they're the one team that, I didn't watch The Bachelor, but I remember hearing about all the things like nobody wants their rose, right? like they're just throwing bags at people, and they're like, "Yeah, no thanks, man. I'm going to go sign here."
They're the bridesmaid, man.
Yeah, it's not even. It's sad for them.
It is. It really is. It is, and they're in a situation where I've mentioned it. I think I personally think they're a mess right now. I don't know what's going on with the leadership there. But they're supposedly trying to sign Vladdy, and I heard they're off by like $100 million. I honestly think Vladdy's going to go to free agency. We've spoken about this before. The Mets have changed the game. The Dodgers have changed the game in terms of free agency. If you're going to have free agency coming up, people are going to take it, especially a year out. The Blue Jays need to make a decision as a franchise, as an organization. What are we going to do about Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Do we trade him now and get something for him now? Or do we let him walk? Or do we, go all in? Let's bring in Pete Alonso. Let's keep Vladdy for this year. Let's try to go all in a wide open American League, American League East Division. Let's see. Let's put our cards on the table and let's battle it out. I don't know. I feel like the smart move would be to move Vladdy because again, you're gonna lose him for nothing, and I don't believe in any hometown discount. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I feel like the money is out there for him to go elsewhere, whether that's Queens, whether that's Boston, whether that's the Bronx, or whether that's LA. I mean, you can't count the Dodgers now, man. I mean, let's be 100% real, bro. They're inevitable. You said it. They're a vacuum. They're like a Dyson vacuum. They suck everything up, and it's only a matter of time before they go in and take somebody else that we weren't expecting. I feel like the Blue Jays are in a situation where They need to do what's best for their organization, and that might have to be, as hard as it is, move on from Vladdy Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to the Blue Jays. They have tried this winter. I don't think anybody, any team that has failed has tried as hard as the Blue Jays, right? Like the Dodgers have tried hard. They've tried better than everybody because they've succeeded, right? They
Mm-hmm.
whoever they said they wanted, every day you're like, dang, they just signed this guy
Yeah.
that they're having to unload people now from their 40 band because they've signed so many
Yeah.
folks.
That's
But
wild.
but I think the Blue Jays deserve a lot of credit for going out and getting into the Bregman market, getting into the every market, right? Like they have gone after every guy and they've fallen short because, Otani, where do you go? Like I'm not talking about Otani this year, but you know what I'm saying. Like
No, I know. I got
it,
you.
when you have the the Dodgers competing against you, it's difficult. When you
It
have
is.
the Yankees competing against you, it's difficult. And like, and what I like this year is like you have guys like Corbin Burns who said, you know what, I live in Phoenix, the Phoenix area. I want to play here, get a deal done. That's
Mm-hmm.
reminiscent of what happened last February with Jose Altuve. He says, get this deal done. I don't want to test free agency later. I want to stay in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And that's rare. That's
Yeah.
rare where, like supposedly Burns got offered more money elsewhere, but he wanted to play in Arizona.
Yeah. That says
Toronto's
a
a
lot.
Toronto's a difficult place to play in terms of, people moving their families there. Uh, you know, just it's a it's another country.
Yeah.
And they've that they will have to try really hard and to keep Vladdy and you can't see what Juan Soto did without wondering like how much money can I get.
Yeah.
and and this is and I've talked to people like they already have enough money, so that their grandkids don't ever have to work.
Right.
But what I found, and I wish Carlos were here for this, what I found is that a lot of these guys they measure their manhood by their paycheck. So if there's another
100%.
guy in the clubhouse who makes more money, they somehow like that's the big dog.
Yeah.
So you just never know what some of these guys are thinking. Like whereas you have other guys who are so comfortable with who they are that they're happy if like Jose Altuve, like
Yeah.
he doesn't care how much Alex Bregman makes. He cares that they have a better team, and he thinks Bregman would make them a better team. And that says a lot about who Jose Altuve is. I think you muted yourself, my brother.
My bad. Um, I think there is something to that whole aspect of what it is to be an unselfish player, and you have that in a Jose Altuve, you have that in a Mookie Betts, you have that in an Aaron Judge, where guys want to play and all they care about is winning. Winning is what matters. Winning is number one, and they're willing to do what it takes to make that happen. And if that means bringing in a player that player has to make some moves to go play a different position, they don't care. They'll do it because it's about winning. It's about the team. And it's not to take away from other players who are, let's say, looking for the big money. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You should always go look for the big money. But again, I think it works where you have two guys on the team that are willing to come together and do that. I wish the Blue Jays a lot of luck. I hope that they figure it out somehow. But it's going to be a very interesting year for them coming up. I wish them the absolute best, but this American League, it's going to be wide open. Uh, who knows? Maybe it comes down to a Yankees against Astros again. What if it comes down to a surprise team? What if Detroit steps up and makes some noise? We never know. It could happen. It's happened before. It can happen again. Jesus, one other thing I want to mention and throw at you is going back with the Mets here. Um, do you see and Mets making any other sorts of moves to solidify the team, or do you think they're done in terms of what's going on with them, and this is the roster they're going to move forward with?
I think for now they're done. I think for the most part everybody's done, which is why some of these guys are starting to panic, right? Which is why you're hearing, oh, Bregman might come back to the Astros. Where if Bregman had initially wanted to come back to the Astros, he could have accepted this deal a month ago. Like
Right.
literally a month ago, he could have been signed, sealed, and had his press conference right after the winter meetings. So I think, most if you didn't get your money from the Dodgers, you better get your money now because there aren't many teams that are still spending. And what I've seen this year, sadly, I hate seeing this. You have some teams that just aren't spending money, that are comfortable, that they're just telling the world like, we're not doing anything this year. We're just gonna like take our money. I
That's
mean,
sad, man.
you think about it, like the Oakland A's have spent more money than the Cardinals,
That's
and
crazy.
so that and it's part of the process. That's why I think a lot of fans are spoiled and they don't realize just how lucky they were during the Cardinals era when the Cardinals were always competing. The
Hmm.
Astros are in this era when they're always competing. The game is cyclical. It is made to punish the winners. Like the system is rigged so that you finish first, you pick last in the draft, and you have a lower draft pool that you could spend and lower international money pool you can spend. So it's literally worked to punish so that the weaker teams could build, and the game is cyclical,
Yeah.
which is good. The problem now is that you have, the Dodgers just money whipping everybody, and some teams just aren't willing to try. And for people who say the Dodgers are ruining baseball, the Dodgers aren't ruining baseball. Other owners just aren't willing to do and commit the money that the Dodgers are. So like if for fans complain about the Dodgers, I would say no, no, no. Complain about your ownership, because all these teams are owned by billionaires or groups of millionaires slash billionaires, and they have the money. And if they lose, they're making so much money in all their other industries that if they lose money on the baseball team, it's just a tax write off. It's not, like they're just moving the money around to avoid taxes anyway. So it
It's
is what it is.
crazy. I think I read something the other day that Steve Cohen made some really good deal in with his hedge fund, and I could have sworn I read that that deal. I think it paid off like the first like half of Juan Soto's contract. I'm like, oh my god, and that was just like on a regular day. So you could imagine it literally goes back to what you said. So it's like these owners, they have so much money, and they just have to be willing to do it. I remember, growing up as a Yankee fan, I always heard the same thing. Oh, the Yankees, they get all their they buy their championships, da 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 da. And I was what you literally just said. I would say to everybody else, I'd be like, nah, your owners don't want to spend the money. You have to spend the money, and it's crazy because the Dodgers kind of have a cheat code. That Otani contract is literally the gift that keeps on giving. That contract is deferred so heavily that it's almost like a free deal for them. It literally is like a free deal for them because now they have the ability to just do what they've been doing, just signing everybody, and then they're doing even deferrals with those deals. So they've unlocked the cheat code on getting guys because these guys that come in, they're willing to do the deferrals. They're willing to do it. Why? Because they want to be a part of a championship team. They just saw this. Look at the effect that Otani has on Japan. You got Yamamoto, you got Rory Sasaki now. Now it's to the point where a lot of I don't know. Me speaking as a fan, I don't know if you heard, but it's like a lot of teams I think are might.
be a little bit wary about trying to get guys from Japan because they feel that the Dodgers almost have an in. Like it's almost like a farm team for them, that Japanese league, because everybody wants to go play with Otani and Sasaki and Yamamoto. It's wild, man. This year is going to be crazy, and the next few years, hopefully we don't have to deal with any work stoppage. But those that's a talk for another day. But this episode of Plakata Nation podcast has been absolutely phenomenal. It's been awesome. We went over the Hall of Fame results, talked about Bregman possibly going back, Altuve maybe moving to make room for Bregman. We talked about Pete. We talked about Santander going to the Blue Jays. We gave you a little bit of everything today. This was an awesome episode. For me, because Rod and the man, Jesus Ortiz, this has been the Plakata Nation podcast. We are out. Plakata!
Oh, wait. We missed our quote of the day.
Oh, damn. You know what?
Let,
My bad.
let me. We always,
Let's do a quote of the day.
we always
man,
give you a quote of the day.
Carlos is going to kill me.
Yeah, if you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be.
Damn.
Maya Angelou said. So
Wow.
remember, folks, look in the mirror and embrace your greatness. Know you are great, and no, you don't have to be normal because normal doesn't exist. On behalf of the Plakata Nation crew, much love. Plakata!